So we were able to go into your old office and see your existing two simulator bays, and I couldn't believe how well those screens had held up. And literally a couple 100,000 balls in each bay. Like I don't remember the exact numbers, but they were holding up pretty good. I was pretty impressed.
What is up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. Special edition. This one is coming from. Uh, it's not the Unabomber's cabin. We're not writing manifestos,
That's right.
but we might be. It kind of looks like it. Most people in the industry will not recognize this guy. This is James Laidlaw, ladies and gentlemen, and you're still asking yourself, who is this guy? So, James, who the hell are you?
I have no idea. I'm in-home golf. So in-home golf simulators. Um, Got into this business, started in-home golf back in 2018, and have grown the business. Started in Canada, grew into the U.S., and last year in 2023 we merged our operations with the indoor golf shop. So now we have our own factory in Dallas where we make our own screens and all of our own soft goods, and we've got sales showrooms in New Jersey and Chicago and Toronto, where I still work out of Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
actually, in point of fact, today you are in a cabin somewhere
I,
north of Toronto in
I'm
a
in a I'm
little
in a secret location north of Toronto by
undisclosed.
a few hours on a nice little lake in a little cabin. Yes.
Well, I apologize for interrupting your solitude, but
All
this
good.
is important
There's
stuff. We gotta
there's no solitude. Simulators are really important. They come first.
right as well they should. But we're gonna get into a bunch of stuff in this episode. Some of the stuff that you
Yeah.
guys have done with us. We selected kind of by mutual agreement MyGolfSpy and Shop Indoor Golf, and obviously with its acquisition of your skills and company to do a big build out on our new
Mhm.
headquarters. I want to talk about that, and then just some of the stuff consumers, because this is a burgeoning industry. I mean, the amount of
Mhm.
money people are spending and wanting to spend on at home golf kind of stuff, like we were saying, it's kind of the 1980s hot tub phenomenon. It's, I don't know if it's quite the at home exercise, Jane Fonda type stuff, but we might be there too.
It's
Um,
close.
the jazzercise and 8 minute abs and
Y-
whatever else. Like,
the golf simulator industry has grown so much in the years since I've been involved in the industry, and now new homes are almost always putting simulators in, right? Builders are very familiar with the required sizes and the various technologies, and we get calls all the time for simulators in new home builds. Obviously retrofits as well, but the new home builds are there, and sometimes those cycles are really long because we want to be involved in the design before the build gets going, and then we
sure,
come in at the end. So we have a long list of clients who have engaged us, but we're not actually installing the simulator until the house is done
yeah.
at the end of the project. So there's a long cycle sometimes on these projects.
Well, and what's crazy too, and not to get too far off on this tangent first, but
Mm.
one of the shifts that I've seen is, like, yes, it's golf specific, no doubt.
Mhm.
But a lot of people that are looking at these spaces, it's like almost a multi-use space as well, where it's not just, hey, we need enough room for one person to be able to swing, hit it into a net, or whatever the case is. With the advancements in the technology, the screens, the projectors, the spaces, they're part at-home theater, part
Mhm.
multi-sport,
Mhm.
you know, training area there. Yeah, golf, no doubt, like, that's a major component of it, but it's not just a golf simulator. Like, these spaces are meant to be multi-use, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, one of the key components of a golf simulator is a projector, right? And the projectors are not golf simulator related, they're home theater projectors. So, they're
Right.
designed to project onto a large screen whatever you're putting through it. So, if you want to watch a hockey game, connect to your cable service or satellite or DVD or streaming service or connect your Xbox, it can all go up on the big screen. And
Right.
then screen quality is really important, right? There's various levels of screen quality out there, and if you're buying stuff off Amazon on the cheap, you're probably going to start to get those dimples in the screen before too long from balls hitting them. If you
Yep.
invest in a better product, you're gonna have a lot less of that. And so most of our clients wind up using their simulators as home theaters. And if you put in a good 4K projector, you're going to be watching hockey in 4K, and there's nothing better than fast moving sports in 4K, in my opinion, right? So,
Hmm.
or Xbox, right? If you're playing Call of Duty on a 15-foot wide screen, it's pretty cool in 4K.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
The golf is just a bonus, right? At that point, I mean,
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's
But
good. Well,
but
listen.
screen quality is really important, and I would encourage everybody to do some reading and call some pros, because screen quality makes a difference.
Well, and that's actually kind of how this relationship started
Mhm.
between Mike also and you guys, was we were, because hitting thousands and thousands and thousands of shots into screens, if we're going to wear through something, we're going to see it pretty quickly,
Mhm.
on that, just because it's, we're testing every day. We got people coming in and out of the facility, and we had reached out and we wanted to test some different screens, where because we'd have to switch them out, several times a year.
Mhm.
um I said, okay,
Well,
well, let's
you guys hit an extraordinary amount of golf balls, like in
right.
the hundreds of thousands of golf balls, and out of all the clients I've seen over the years, I think you guys do a hell of a lot more than most.
Yeah, I mean, and for us, it's no different than a photographer with a camera or whatever. It's our hammers and nails and tape
Right.
measures. It's a tool that we use, and we really see it that way. So we tested all the different stuff on the market, and maybe not unlike a lot of other people, like there isn't like a lot of brand allegiance or brand awareness. It's not like, ooh, this is a Nike screen. Ooh, this is an
Yeah.
Adidas screen. Oh, this is a BMW screen. It's like, this one's white and it has Velcro. Okay, this
Yeah.
one's white and it has Velcro. So we noticed some really interesting, when we started to test it, we noticed some super interesting things in terms of image quality,
Yeah.
sound. We talk about like bounce back, right? Like where the ball goes once it hits the net. And then, like I said, overall durability. Because the other thing is, if you don't get a good screen, it can really eat up the balls that you're using too. That can be really destructive. People don't think about that. You can go through a lot of golf balls. I mean, think about the difference between hitting a golf ball into a sponge and into a cheese grater.
Yeah.
you know?
I've been in indoor golf simulator centers where the screens are like a hard canvasy material, and the
Yeah,
ball hits it and it's loud, and
yeah.
you can really hear it. And that, golf balls in simulators break a lot more than people realize. Of
Hmm.
course, when you golf outside, you generally lose your ball in the forest or in the water,
Yeah,
and you don't
before you
you,
wear
before you
through it.
break it, right? Because you don't play the same ball for 400 rounds or 400 shots.
Right.
You lose a
I
ball, so it's
certainly don't.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in a simulator, that ball stays in play forever and ever until it deteriorates and breaks. So they do actually break down, but the quality of your screen makes a huge difference. And if you've got one of those cheap canvasy screens that are loud, the ball's gonna hit it and take a lot more pressure. So what you're looking for is a screen that has a real soft impact, can
Yeah.
absorb the impact without kicking it back too far, and that's a
Right.
function of the screen quality, the stretch, the which directions the fabric stretches, how the material is woven, and then of course how it's rigged around the perimeter, and
Sure.
what's supporting it on the around the perimeter. Like I've seen other companies put simulators up where they've rigged it with a bungee cable system, and then put a Velcro padding around the corner that they secure to both sides of the wall and the
Sure.
screen. Well,
Yeah.
that takes away the benefit of any stretch on the bungee.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
now you've just secured both sides of it. So
Mhm.
there's different challenges, and companies like ours have been building these for so many years. We seems obvious to us, but the expertise that goes into our screen design really makes a difference in all of those things: loudness, kickback, stretch,
Yep.
right? And the material having a really nice sheen on it so that it reflects nicely off projectors. And as
Exactly.
everybody's moving into 4K, which they're doing now,
Yep.
that's even more important than ever.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's kind of where it started, where we were testing all these things, and come to find, okay, so we ended up with a shop indoor golf SIG,
Mhm.
So if you see Sig Pro out there or whatever, that's Shop Indoor Golf. Okay, this screen blind tested the best. We said, okay, cool. Let's look into it. Fast forward to about a year and a half ago, we're getting ready to move into a new facility. We knew
Mhm.
that we had to upgrade both our size, etc. And it's like, hey, we wanted to build out 4 different bays. And we wanted to obviously involve you guys in that process because we said, hey, if they make the best screens, what install capabilities do they have? It kind of paired up
Right.
nicely with the acquisition of your company,
Yeah.
being brought into the fold. And so, how did that all come together? And just kind of talk a little bit about the project that we worked on. What was easy? What was hard? How did it turn out? Where does that kind of fit in the range of things that you do? Then we'll get into some consumer questions.
Sure. So there was a couple really interesting things about your project, the 4-bay project. One is that your use is a little bit different than most of our clients. So we at In-Home Golf, we do custom designs. So every single bay that we do is custom cut to fit in your house or in your garage or wherever, and we make the screens to fit the maximum width and height that we can make in your space. Now,
Yep.
there's obviously some parameters under which you do those builds. For example, you want to keep the aspect ratio of your screens in line with the projected images that come through the software, right? Which is
Right.
16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratio, which
Yep.
means you need a certain width relative to height.
Yep.
So in your facility, you guys wanted really tall bays because of the way you film. You do so much content, like you create content, and you've got 4 bays side by side that we wanted to have open so you could get the shots down, right? Like all
Right.
through all the bays and have a really big open feeling. You didn't want it enclosed. And sometimes simulators can be enclosed because people have ceiling height restrictions, but
Right.
also you want to have netting and control of the ball flight. You want to safely control the ball flight, so you have
Sure.
some sort of canopy or padding or netting in the ceiling. In this case, we built your simulators at 12 feet high, full frames with netting way up high, so you guys could fly balls off your mats. You can get those wedges and really watch the ball flight indoors, which is something that you don't always
Yeah.
get.
There's a bigger space than most would have, even in a commercial setting, like you're saying, like
Yeah,
most time, like you'd have them almost enclosed, like I don't want to say
that's right.
cubicles, but you'd have defined areas where
Yeah,
it's like, hey, if I'm in a bay, I can't
yeah,
necessarily see the person next to me or next to them or next to
yeah,
them in our facility. Like you said, we wanted it almost like a batting cage feel, right? Where it's like you could
yeah,
see all 4 people kind of working or hitting at one
yeah,
time, but to have enough space in each one that it was this sense of not being enclosed, not
right,
feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I'm
right,
hitting in a simulator." We wanted it to feel more
yeah,
like a
and
vaulted ceiling and area. Yeah.
and you're swinging a real driver with real golf balls, so you need to have that space around you to feel comfortable swinging without feeling like you're going to hit something or you're crowded. You really want to have that feeling of open space. And your warehouse, I mean, you have a big, huge warehouse. If people don't know, and
Yep.
so we designed this structure with the 4 bays with huge posts and long carry beams, right, and
Mhm.
big structures of netting across the top and open in between the bays, right? Which is
Right.
something we don't often do. We usually try to close them off to keep the golf balls in especially if you're in public facility, people are flying balls around all over the place. You guys are, your people hitting balls are generally better golfers. Is that the
For
right
the
way to
most
say it?
part, I mean,
You,
yeah,
you-
it's
you're not likely to be spraying balls all over the place. You're more likely to keep them in play.
yes. Yeah, it's probably fair. Yeah.
So the open bays works in that environment. Whereas if you were open to the public, renting them out, I think you'd want to have them a little more enclosed on the sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, so it was a custom design for you specifically for your purposes, and I think the end result looks pretty awesome. I think
Yeah,
everybody's
it's
pretty
awesome.
happy.
So we ended up with 4 bays that were awesome. Like you said, it's a little bit different use case for us because it
Hmm,
is such a high volume
hmm.
operation. I mean, like I said, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots in every bay every day. So it's tens of thousands of shots every year. So it is a high volume thing, different than
But
what
but you
somebody
know
might
what
find.
impressed me is your office, your new office is right on the same location as your old office, it's just a few doors
Yeah,
down. So we were able to go into your old office and see your existing two simulator bays, and I couldn't believe how well those screens had held up, because we knew that you'd had them for some time, and
I
it was, I don't remember the exactly, it was a couple of years, right?
think
Those
probably, yeah, a
screens held
couple
up,
of years.
and literally a couple 100,000 balls in each bay. Like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but they were holding up pretty good. I was pretty impressed. Even I
Yeah,
was impressed.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and it's
and
funny
I'm
too,
like,
'cause, like, you do your own durability, like I said, make your own products out of Dallas and some of those things, but, like,
yeah,
even what you're able to simulate as far as durability testing,
yeah,
you go out and say, okay, I mean, it's the difference between, running a car in a track and say, hey, this engine will last 300,000 miles or whatever. You do that and then actually see somebody that's had the car for 300,000 miles and you go,
right,
okay, in the real world, everyday
yeah,
use, like, how did this actually go? And it's like,
yeah.
okay.
Now, Now, we've had those screens in the field for 5 years, and in residential environments, we've never changed those screens out. Like, I've never had a residential customer call me and go, "My screens need to get changed," you know, um, unless there's a flood or something happened to them other than regular use. They're all still in use. In
Yeah.
commercial facilities where you're hitting ball after ball after ball, 8, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, of course,
Mhm.
they're gonna take some wear, but you guys probably hit balls more than anybody, and the durability was impressive.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt. And like I said, so this industry is blowing up, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
yeah, somewhere between, the Jane Fonda hot tub, in-home workout stuff, whatever, like, people are asking for it as part of a new build or a retro build,
yeah.
or it's on somebody's holiday list or, man cave or whatever. But I mean, it's everybody that I talk to, all of my buddies in the golf space, everybody either has one, wants one, or is trying to figure out how to get
Mhm.
something. And this could be from, again, something small, a net and a
Yeah,
Rapsodo or something, through, like I said, what you guys do on the custom
yeah,
build out side. But let's say I'm in that position, right? And I'm sitting here going, okay, I don't know what I don't know, but I do know I want one of these things. What are the biggest mistakes that you see consumers make if they're going to get into this and want to do it?
yeah.
What are top 5, 10 things that they
I'll tell you.
absolutely have to get right, or they're gonna hate themselves and spend a lot
It
of money and be like, "This is terrible."
it's a really good question. It's the most important one. And just so you know, at the inhomegolf.com website, we have a free downloadable designer's guide, which will give you some of this stuff as well. But so go ahead and grab it or whatever.
We'll
But
link that in
but
there.
but
We'll
but,
link
but
that in there.
let me tell you, room size is the number one challenge across the board. I spend more time talking to people about how much space it takes to put a golf simulator in, because a lot of people, not, we get a lot of people that call me and go, "Hey man, we've built our house, we put a simulator, we designed a simulator room. Great. How much room do you have?" "Well, it's really tall, like a 12-foot ceiling. It's got lots of space." "Great. 12 is way too much. You don't need 12. What's your width?" "Oh, it's 11 feet wide by 14 feet long." I'm like, your room's gonna suck, and so, and people really struggle, and it's not a people struggle with room dimensions. People struggle with visualizing a space and
Mhm.
understanding how much room they need. So in terms of height, most people who are around 6 feet tall can
Yep.
swing a club, a driver, very comfortably in 9 feet. 9 feet to me is a bare minimum. And
Yep.
most of the tracking technology will work at 9 feet, but not lower. There are
Yep.
there are some, and there's some floor models. There are ways, and there are people who aren't as tall, and we've done rooms that are a little bit smaller than that. But in my opinion, people say, "What's the minimum height?" 9 feet is a good minimum height. 10 is great. 11 is fine. 12 is unnecessary. You just simply don't need that much height.
Yeah.
um
So 9 to
yeah,
11, like, 9 feet is fine,
yeah.
10 to 11, 12
hmm
feet doesn't get you anything, 11 doesn't. So,
if I was building my house, for me,
yeah.
I would go 10, 10 and a half tops.
Yep.
That's where I would land. Now, in terms of width, in a perfect world, you want to hit the ball down the center of the screen, right? You
Sure.
want to hit down the middle. Like, the projected image goes up. There's a golf course. You're standing in the center. You can see the fairway. You want to hit down the center, which means you need room on both sides of the ball for left-handed players and right-handed players. And
Hmm.
that's especially important where I am in Canada because there's more left-handers up here. I don't know if you know that. That's a statistical fact. The further
Yep.
south you go, the less left-handed golfers there are. We're pretty sure it has to do with hockey.
I'm sure it
Um,
does. Yeah,
yeah,
would make
yeah.
sense, right?
Well, hockey sticks are ambidextrous, right? So some kids go left, and then if you get down to Florida, a lot less people are getting given hockey sticks as a kid.
And they're
So
old, right? I mean, they're old, so
yeah, just
whatever.
in general in the southern states, it's less of a sport for kids. I think
Yeah.
that's anyway. We're totally off topic. Doesn't matter. The point
But
is, you want to have room on the left side and the right side for golfers, which means from the ball to the outside of your swing, you need a comfortable 7 feet, which means
mhm.
you need 14 feet, and that's if you don't want to offset the ball. So 14 feet is a minimum. So again, if I was building my perfect space, I'd go 10 foot high, 15 wide, 16 wide. Again, if you can
Mhm.
get 16 by 10, now you've got a 16:10 ratio, which is what your computer screen is projecting.
I was just gonna say that almost sounds a lot like 16 by 9 or 16 by 10, which is
Right. Yeah.
where you'd wanna be. Yeah.
Right. So the narrower you go, the more compressed your screen height is going to be, and you're going to
Yep.
struggle. You can stretch it and whatever, but sometimes you make do with what you have. But
Sure.
any less than 14 feet, and you're not going to be hitting down the center. You're going to have to offset. Now, a lot of simulator technology brands now have a wider field of vision so that you can specifically offset. So, for
Right.
example, the IXO2 by Unicore, the Falcon by Foresight, there's a bunch of them that all have wider field of vision so that you can actually work within a smaller space. And those companies
Mhm.
have done that because so many people struggle with width.
Mhm.
So what that means is if you've got 12-foot wide room, you can now offset 1 foot to one side for a right-handed player, and then an opposite 1 foot for a left-handed player, and that makes up for the extra space that you need.
Yeah, and that's kinda where I mean, you've been helping me on mine, and there'll be an article coming out here not super long as we kinda go through I did a DIY thing kinda in between where you
Yeah,
shipped me all the stuff, gave me instructions, and said, "Good luck, sucker. See if you can,
yeah.
pull
See
this
ya.
off. See ya, have fun." But mine was kinda more in that retrofit category where
Yeah,
I had 10.5 foot ceilings, which is great, but I had 12.5 foot width. So
right.
a hair less than would be ideal, so I ended up with more of a 4 by 3
Yep.
situation, which is good. I mean, as I'm messing around with the projector and stuff, it's gonna be awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, like, if I were to start over and build a room, you're absolutely right. I would hit those dimensions, but
Right.
what I'm
So
noticing is, like, it's great. Like, I am super happy with the space and the room to swing and all that stuff. Like, if I came home one day and this was done and in there, I'd be doing backflips, you know?
absolutely. So again, I tell people what I think is ideal, and then we discuss what they have, and then I'll talk to them about, hey, this is where you're going to struggle. You and I had the same discussion when you said you had 12 and a half foot wide room. Okay, this
Mhm.
is what's going to happen. You're going to hit slightly off center,
Yep.
right? And if you're and let's face it, if you're a right-handed golfer and everybody in your family is right-handed and it doesn't matter, then go ahead and offset the strike mat. Like it,
Right.
right? And but if you've got lefties in the family or your neighbors, you know, then you're going to have to look at technology that supports a wider field of vision, and that's going to restrict some of your options. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but to me, it comes down to what's the ideal scenario, and then what do you have, and let's work with what you have, and I'll explain to you what we can do to make it work. And if it's really, really crazily not ideal, I'll tell you that too. And
Yeah.
we've built some crazy small spaces, and the customers agree in advance. Yep. Hey, listen, we agree this isn't ideal, but let's go ahead and get this done. We want to do it. Now that brings us to our final dimension, which is length, room
Right. I was
length.
gonna ask you depth, like how much
Yeah,
room. Yep.
and this is really important because it's not a depth is not as much about swinging a golf club as it is having spaces for your friends and family to stand and sit. Right.
Right.
So people come to me with this idea. I want to have this great space. My family's going to come in. We're going to have a couch. We're going to watch movies. Okay. Let's talk about what we need. The screen is always going to be about a foot off of the back wall. And
Mm-hmm.
then you want at least 10 feet of ball flight from the center of the strike mat. My preference is 12. I really
Mm-hmm.
like that extra 2 feet makes a big difference to me. You're a little bit further off the screen.
Yep.
The room feels better if you can get to 12.
Yep.
So now if you're at 12, you've got 13 feet now to the back wall. Now you
Yep.
need a swing radius
Yep.
of 4 feet. Remember,
So you're 17.
your your driver is 42 inches,
Yep.
plus the
45.
grip,
Yeah.
you're 40, whatever, right? So you
Yeah.
need 4 feet of clearance, which means you need 17 feet from the wall behind the screen in order to create a safe space where nobody else is standing, so they're not going to lose their teeth when you're swinging your driver,
Right.
right?
But if your
And
friends play hockey, no big deal. They're used to that, right? So they
right,
can you
right,
can
that's right.
get
Yeah,
fingers.
all those hockey playing left-handers that we don't
Yeah.
worry about their
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
They don't have any teeth anyway.
You're right.
Uh,
All right. So that's
but
17 feet, but that's just minimum. Like, so 17 feet
yeah,
gets you a base. So we got 17 depth. We got, let's call it 10 to
well, but
11
hold
high.
on, because
But,
that's just playable space. You want to
right. But
have
what if I
friends
want
in the
my,
room. Now, if you want to put a couch and chairs and recliner, you need 22, 23, 24, 25 feet.
yep.
So, so people ask me what size do you need? Obviously, it varies, but a long time ago I wrote down you need 10 feet high, 15 feet wide, 25 feet long. 10, 15, 25. It's a really easy metric to remember. 10, 15, 25. And if you can get a little more than that, great.
Hmm.
If you can get a little less than that, we can work with it. But that as a standard kind of wrap your head around the space you need, that's a
Hmm.
really, really good place to start. The one challenge that we often have in new builds, because simulators often wind up in the basement. And what
Right.
happens in the basement is the ceilings of your basement are where we put trunk lines for your HVAC, for heating and air conditioning. And the
Yep.
number of times we've designed a room for somebody, and then we come back to do the build after the house is built, and the contractors run an 18-inch by 15-inch ductwork down the center of the room or to the sides. Ooh, ductwork is the bane of my existence. And it can absolutely destroy your space. So we were specifically talking about problems to avoid. That's one of them. That's one of the
Yep.
biggest. If you're designing space, make sure your contractor knows that that space is sacrosanct. It's like a chapel. You need you need you need that clearance throughout. You can't dig into that clearance. You can't take over space, and that will save you mountains of heartache if you can avoid that.
Yeah. Saint Simulator Cathedral, right? Like
That's
that's
right.
our,
That's
it's
right.
gotta
Yeah.
be. Do you do most of them? I mean, like you said, like indoor, or they said majority end up like in a space like that,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's like an additional outbuilding or something in addition onto a garage or something like
Hmm.
that. But most of them probably end up in, like you said, in a finished space, like a
Hmm.
basement, like an extra room on the side of the house that's
Yep.
going to potentially have that duct work or other things that they're going to want to be running through, whether it's water lines or
Hmm.
electrical or whatever the case is.
Yep. That's true. Simulators go everywhere, right? People will build outbuildings all the time. Generally those things require permits. In
Hmm.
most municipalities, you can build a 100 square foot shed without permits.
Yep.
A simulator is 300 square feet or more.
Yeah.
You probably need a permit if you're going to
Yeah.
build something in your backyard. And
Yeah.
that depends on the county, city, region, state. They're
All
they're
that
they're
stuff.
all they're all different. So you'll have to figure that out locally. But we do tons of those,
If
tons
you're,
of
what if you're
garages.
2 hours north of Toronto in a little cabin? Do they care? Could you just throw something out on the lake there and people are like, "Bah, it's good."
Here where I am right now, I'd get ratted out and I'd have the township on me. Pretty hot here.
All right, we don't want that. We don't want that
Yeah.
then. What other mistakes? What are, like I said, getting the size dimensions right? I think that's probably bigger than most people think. They think, "Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I have an extra bedroom. My kiddos moved out or something." Speaking about
So
myself here, like, and they go, "Ooh, well, I could turn this, guest bedroom into a little simulator room." And it's like, Nah, man.
So
No.
so let's go back to what I was saying earlier about what's ideal and what's possible. So if you're the kind of golfer that wants to get up at 4 in the morning and grind your 7 iron down to a tenth of a degree on the launch angles, and you're working on your spin rates to within, tens instead of thousands, like
Right.
there are people who are like that. And if your simulator is just simply about you and your training, then we can do much smaller spaces because you're not necessarily required to be down the center line. The playability and the functionality of the room is different than what we were describing as a family room. So
Right.
your vision is really important. If your vision is a golf simulator room and entertainment space where you've got people coming in and there's groups, and it's really about, having a glass of wine on Friday nights with your buds, then, or your family, then the larger space, the full spaces we've been discussing, is what you're looking for. If really you're going to put a launch monitor down and you're just going to grind and it's just you, and we have these clients and they do
Sure.
that, then smaller spaces are viable for that. But it's my job to make sure that your vision matches what it is I'm building you, because I've never ever had a customer come back to me after and go, "Hey man, that's not what I wanted." Right?
Right.
Like that
Right.
would break my heart if I had a customer who is angry like that. Like I just
Yeah.
simply won't. I won't do it. You need to be aware of what it is we're building for you, and these things are expensive too. You want to
Sure.
get these in your house. You want to do it right. If you've got that extra bedroom and it's all just about you and your numbers, then fantastic. Let's get it built.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
So
if you want a bigger space with your family around, let's figure out how to do that separately.
yeah. So I mean, it kind of sounds like the biggest things people either, I don't want to say screw up or mess up or aren't aware of, but those two kind of go hand in hand. It's number one, what's your use case? So
Yes.
really think about, how are you going to use this space? How do you
Mhm.
want to be able to use it now? Maybe how do you want to use it in the future? Whatever the case is, and then that really will dictate the size of the sandbox you need to build. Figure out how
Right.
much room you need to play in that sandbox. What else? If there's another one or two things that you see once that's done, right? When people go, okay, got it. Yep, this part's done. From there, what's a road bump or speed bump or two that people really need to avoid?
So I don't know about avoiding at this point because you cover off all the physical stuff. So when I talk to new customers, I go through the sizes, we get to this point, and then I go right into budget. Let's talk about how much money you want to spend on this, and then I'll do my best to guide you to what we can do. Right? Custom design build stuff is going to be a little more expensive the than the mass manufactured frame kits that are one
Sure.
size, right? So custom stuff is always a little more. But the biggest range in cost is the technology, and right. So
Mhm.
there's a couple of brands that are very expensive because they're at the top end, and
Yeah, you
there's
got
a
your full
lot of
site TrackMan stuff is going to
yeah,
be, you're going to pay 20,000, 25,000 for the
yeah,
unit stuff. If you want all the software, you're
yeah,
talking a brand new Honda Accord, right?
yeah,
Like you're
and
talking,
and
yeah,
that's just the tracking device. That's just the launch monitor, right? So
right. Right.
those two brands are the ones we're talking about. It's Foresight and TrackMan, and there's reasons why those products are the price the way they are. I mean,
Hmm.
they're amazing.
Right.
They're amazing products.
Yeah.
And people ask, well, do I need that? Well, that's difficult for me to answer because it all depends on how you're going to use it, what you're going to do. Are there devices in a middle range, kind of in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, that are super accurate, great graphics, lots of screens, lots of courses? Yeah, there sure are. And we sell a lot of products in that range that don't necessarily have the branding and the super high end data analysis tools that some of these professional devices use. If you're club fitting and doing professional training, then you probably want to have one of the higher end devices.
Sure.
I don't think that's a too much of a stretch to understand. And especially if you're going to go get a lesson from your club pro, you're hoping he's not using an entry level launch monitor,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
the entry level launch monitors, which I consider kind of like $5,000 and below, any of
Yep.
those stuff at in-home golf, we don't see our customers using those. Like our
Hmm.
like our customers don't buy those. Our customers are kind of mid range and then
Yeah.
up. So the entry level stuff is a little more the DIY, ordered online and have it shipped to you and assemble it yourself. The
Yep.
made for you stuff, which is a massive market. I mean, there's
Oh,
a
it's
lot of people
huge.
doing that,
Yes.
and there's some great products out there for that 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 price point.
Mm-hmm.
The mid range stuff, and we're talking, the Unicore, the new Apogee by True Golf,
Yep.
the Pro T VR, there's a new company called Golfin, a product
Mm-hmm.
called Hydra, which is really good. They're a Canadian company. There's a few of them. There's a bunch of them that all run kind of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,000
Yeah,
dollars.
kind of right in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're great, and they'll provide you excellent accuracy, meaning when you step up and hit your 7 iron with 155 yards with a slight fade, it picks up that
Yeah,
that
the
spin
actual
rate.
spin axis, right, and gets that
Yeah,
correct. And yeah,
yeah, and that stuff's really important. And I mean, when I started selling simulators 15 years ago, all the big companies were their sales pitches were always about accuracy because the companies didn't have all that data down.
right.
Now, I almost never talk to customers about accuracy. And in my
Interesting.
opinion, in my opinion, I see all these brands, like nobody questions how good the data is because when you get up and you hit the ball, you're like, yeah, that's
There's
my
nothing there
shot.
for somebody to question to hit it and go, "Oh, I just hit
Yeah,
my 7 iron. It normally goes 155 yards, and that just told me it went 112." Like,
yeah.
that doesn't happen now.
I
If
don't
you're
see
in,
that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like,
that used to
yeah,
be a case. Like there were simulator companies, and we don't need to go into the brand names, but there used to be companies that those variations between companies were dramatic, and now everybody's kind of dialed it in. So accuracy is not something that I really sweat about.
yeah,
Now it's course selection, right? How
yeah,
many courses do I get?
software integration.
Yeah, graphic quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ease of use is one. How
Mm-hmm.
hard is it for me to launch the software and get playing? Uh,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and I'll be a little cheeky here. I deal with a lot of high net worth successful people, and
Uh-huh.
some of those guys have trouble turning the computer on. Uh, um,
Right. I
it's
think this was our group. We say they don't own a tape measure.
I don't
Like,
own a tape measure. I may have told you this story, but I actually had a guy fly one of my techs from New York up to Maine because he didn't own a tape measure and he needed to have the space measured before we even quoted in the simulator. And I said, just take a tape measure and go out and measure the garage. And he says, man, I don't even know if I own a tape measure and I wouldn't know how to use it if I did. So he, hey, you know, he he paid us to fly a guy up to Bangor and then rent a car and drive and stay in a hotel and that was okay. And we didn't gouge him. I just charged him what the cost was. But um,
right.
the the point
Which
is
was
the point is
more than a tape measure, just for the
yeah.
record. It was a really
Yeah,
pretty good tape.
and but ease of use of the software is actually something that I think is really really important. And when
Yeah.
you look at software packages that have been around a long time, people recognize E6
Yep. Yep.
or GS Pro, which are both popular
Yep.
third-party software packages integrate with a lot of the different systems.
Yep.
Those are designed for touchscreens.
Yep.
So the when you launch the software, they're big buttons, play golf, right? Match,
Yes.
course select. Like it's
It's like a
designed with big,
microwave, right? Like, it's more
yeah,
like that with, like, hey, heat, 2 minutes, go.
yeah, and you got big fat fingers and you're touching a touch
Right.
screen and
Yeah.
there's big icons and those that kind of design sensibility to me is really really important. And
Mhm.
it makes the event the when the day you're playing it makes it easy and comfortable and smooth and all that
Mhm.
matters.
Yeah, the
So
the other thing I'd add to that too is when you're going through this, like you said, when you get the space, the requirements, picking that software slash,
mhm,
launch monitor, that's one of the things that I personally really appreciate about you guys is you're not tied to any brand, right?
mm,
Where, just like us on the testing side, we love the world of agnostic testing because performance wins, and there's different options. We
Yeah.
get people that are saying, "Hey, I need the new driver every year. I'm willing to spend X." Okay, that's awesome. Somebody saying, "Hey, what happens if I want something that's 2 years old, 3 years old? I want X amount. I got X amount. How do I maximize that dollar figure?" So in terms of knowing, all the different ranges and products and
Yeah.
profiles and individuals. And then you get into the computer side, make sure your graphics card can handle the system you're trying to
Yeah.
run. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge one. And obviously the specs of the computer, and you guys have all this information on there
Yeah.
too, but that is the last place for you to cheap out because
Oh,
you can spend $50,000 and have your
yeah.
GC quad, have your TrackMan, have this
Yeah.
beautiful room, and then you go, okay, well, I'll get whatever computer to run it,
Yeah.
and then that can ruin everything. It's like not putting enough gas in you got a
Yeah.
Ferrari and you just filled it up with 1 gallon and you're going to try to go drive it.
Yep, and I see that just as part of our responsibility. No matter if I'm selling you a launch monitor with a specific software, my job is to make sure the PC I'm selling you is overpowered for that. It exceeds the minimums, and that's
Yeah,
just the way it is. But PCs grow every year. I mean, the availability of great chips speeds are increasing every year. I don't know if you're following what's happening with Nvidia, who makes all the
mhm,
graphics cards, but their stock's been on
yep,
a tear for the last year.
mhm,
Like these companies are doing real well, and you're absolutely right. You have to have it. But to circle back to what you said about being agnostic across the brands, that's actually how in-home golf got started. That's exactly the reason why I started the company, because I found I was selling simulators for another company, and
yep,
and we were always competing. Obviously selling what we had to sell,
sure,
not necessarily what the customer wanted or needed. It was always
right.
just what we had, we were selling what we had. And I found once I started at in-home, I could actually help customers get what they needed without overspending or making those mistakes, and guiding them. It gave us that flexibility. And now in our showrooms, we have all kinds of different tech in each of the showrooms, and you can come in and try them and you can compare them.
Yeah, I mean, and
Right?
that's the
You
other
can.
thing. Like, again, it'd be nice if there were one in every major market, but that's a different thing. Because how many
Yeah.
places do you get to go and try out a simulator? I mean, if you do, it's the X golf or the 5 iron
Yeah.
golf or whatever, and there are things so you can see what it is. But to really be able to compare, I mean, I
Yeah.
noticed this like when I had to get a new garage door. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do you see how the different garage doors work and stuff? And there
Yeah.
happened to be a garage door location that was that, and they had a showroom that could
Yeah.
show you how they work. And I was like, oh, that's really helpful to
Yeah.
see. Hey, the Unicorn versus the Skytrack versus the GC Quad versus you know all the
Yeah.
other ones that you mentioned.
Absolutely. And my showroom in Toronto, I have Hydra, IXO, QED, TrackMan 4, Apogee, and Falcon. Plus the True Golf Multisport,
Yeah,
all in our showroom. So you can kind of
yeah,
come in and try them out. I've got GS Pro, I've got E6 Connect, like the new Apex. You can try all
yeah,
the different softwares. You can try all the launch monitors.
yeah,
So it just, yeah, I yeah, it works. It works
yeah.
that way.
That's awesome. Let's
There,
finish up with this. Tell me another good story or two, because I know you got good stories. I love the one. I mean, flying up to Maine to measure a space that would take. I mean, should take about a minute and a half. Uh, that blows my mind. That's awesome. But I know you got at least one or two more.
I don't want to lean into stories about the inadequacies of customers, but
Sure you do.
sure I do. But one of the most fun projects we did was a country club in Toronto called St. George's, and I don't know if anybody knows, it's a Canadian Open host site, so PGA Tour facility, and historically one of the number one. It's continually rated number one in Canada. If it's not rated number one, it's number two or number three. Like it's one of the top
Yeah,
top courses in Canada, and has been for a long, long time. And it's right in the city. a limited space old course, which is a lot of times these old courses they wind up with, they don't have a lot of extra
Split
space.
ceilings, right, and stuff, and they're
Yeah,
small, and yeah,
yeah. So what these guys did is they kicked out their curling club. So they had a curling club part of the grounds. So they took over the curling rink, which is quite large, and we built 6 simulators on the floor of the curling rink and put a wall up and a huge 85 by 25-foot putting green in the middle. Three simulator bays on each side. I think we started with 4 TrackMans and two quads, and it was absolutely amazing and really 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 cool project, just to do that there. But it's a shame to get rid of curling because I like curling, but it is what it is. But that surface is a beautifully flat floor with really tall ceilings, which
right,
makes for a great
ideal space, right?
great simulator room. Yeah, really great simulator room.
There you
But
go.
uh, but the indoor golf centers are probably the most fun projects that I've been working on. Residential stuff is always great. They're always unique. Like in somebody's house, everybody's house is slightly different.
Sure,
And some of the houses we've been in are pretty extraordinary. Simulators next to car elevators.
right,
I've seen more of those than I can count, to be honest. You go into the basement, the guy's got an elevator with a turntable to back his cars into his little fleet museum for his fleet. Um, stuff like that. I had a guy who owned a condo building, and he had a hockey rink that he'd built on the roof outside of the condo. And I mean, just really crazy, crazy stuff. So, again, if you've got the resources to do this stuff, you go ahead and do it.
sure,
Um, yeah,
sure.
but
That's
but the
wild.
but the indoor golf facilities for me are the really fun ones right now. The multi bays, the
Yeah,
layouts of the not unlike the one at MyGolfSpy
sure.
where the structure is actually fully custom. Like we actually designed it specifically for it.
For that
Um,
space, yeah, and for that
yeah,
use case, right? Like,
that's
that's
right.
part of it, and
Yeah,
it's
actually, my
I mean,
golf spot is one of the cooler ones I think we've done in a while.
I
Yeah,
think it is. That I'm
yeah,
not biased, but I certainly think
yeah,
it is, and, it's cool. I mean, people are gonna have tons of questions, so,
yeah,
yeah, there's information on the site, we'll link that stuff below, but if you have other questions, post them below. Hit me up, hit James up, we'll get answers for you. Again, maybe it's a shameless plug, maybe it's not, but these guys are the best at what they do in the industry that we have found. We did not know that until we started investigating, so we appreciate you guys and what you guys do, and obviously anything we can do to help support those endeavors, we certainly will. Ask us questions. Let us help you with this
yeah.
stuff. Absolutely. Find us, follow us. Until next time, be out.